Test, test. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to get settled and get started in a few minutes here. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I am Brandy Shire. I'm the publisher of Sun Peaks Independent News. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you to everyone watching online, and a big thank you to our local candidates for participating in this forum. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and unceded territories of the Secwepemc peoples. The Secwepemc, or High Alpine, is an especially significant area to their culture. I want to thank Jace for helping us to prepare the space today. Big thank you to Lee's Music for all the audio and visual components. Big thank you also goes out to Moranti Developments and to Powder Ventures, who have both stepped up to help us cover the costs of today's event. Yeah, a huge thank you. I also just want to take the opportunity to say a huge thank you to all of our financial contributors, as well as our advertisers who help Sun Peaks News do the work that we do in the community every day. We really couldn't do it without you. If you haven't already, I highly recommend signing up for our weekly and council highlights newsletters that Nicole, our community reporter over there at the back, works incredibly hard on every week to make sure that all you guys have the information that you need to make the decisions that you do in your life in Sun Peaks. If you do want to become a financial contributor this evening to support our work, we do have some QR codes at the back that you can scan, and it will take you through that process. I also want to say a special thank you and also farewell to Nicole, who is wrapping up her time as a community news reporter here in Sun Peaks, and she will be traveling this spring. So thanks, Nicole. Before we turn our attention over to the new slate of candidates up for this by-election, I also want to say a big thank you to our existing council, as well as our municipal staff who work hard every day, but I think especially over the last few months following Mayor Al Rain's death. It's been a challenging time, and it's been a very collaborative time too, with councillors stepping up into the interim mayor position. So thank you so much to our current council and staff. So we have 4 candidates who have put their name forward for the one councillor position, which is opening up. As a reminder, this seat is opening because current councillor Rob O'Toole has been elected mayor by acclamation. Rob will have a few minutes to address us at the end of the forum, just when we're wrapping up. General voting takes place on Saturday, April 5th, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. here at the Sun Peak Center. Voter registration also takes place at that time, and if you need more information on how to do that, it can be found on both the Sun Peaks News website and the Sun Peaks Municipalities websites. Advanced voting takes place here on this Wednesday, March 26th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then our next full municipal election will be in October of 2026. So these folks will be on council to that time. All right, with that, I'd like to turn it over to our candidates. They will have 3 minutes each to introduce themselves, tell us a bit about their backgrounds, and why they are running for council in this by-election. We are going to start alphabetically with Dave Burnham.
Hello. Thanks, Brandy. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Burnham, and I'm running for council because I believe our community deserves leadership that is forward-thinking, transparent, and truly represents our diverse needs of the community. My deep and lasting connection with Sun Peak started 23 years ago. What started as annual vacations and evolved into something a little bit more profound. Today, 3 generations of my family call this incredible mountain community home. My wife, Kathy, and I made Sun Peaks our permanent home in 2017, and I've become deeply invested in our community ever since. Whether it be volunteering with adaptive sports, attending council meetings, or having conversations to understand the nuanced challenges we face. My professional background brings a unique perspective to municipal leadership. Decades of senior leadership in financial services and financial technology have taught me that great organizations require strategic thinking, data-driven decision-making, financial oversight, and a commitment to balancing multiple stakeholder needs. I believe the same applies to great communities, and I want to bring those skills to our council. I'm not running with a narrow personal agenda. I'm running to bring a different perspective to council, one that complements the existing council's experience and expertise while introducing innovative problem solving from industries that thrive on adaptation and strategic planning and financial planning. My commitment to Sun Peaks is about balanced, sustainable growth. This means creating policies that respect our tourism economy while ensuring permanent residents can truly call this place home. It means transparent governance, where decisions aren't just made, but they're carefully explained. It means using data and analytical thinking to find creative solutions to complex challenges. Whether it's addressing our long-term and affordable housing needs, managing short-term rentals, or ensuring our community services meet the needs of all generations, I pledge to bring an open, communicative, and inclusive leadership style, a style that listens, analyzes, and acts in the best interest of our entire community. My family is here because we believe in Sun Peaks. We've chosen this community not just as a place to live, but as a place to build our future. And that future requires leadership that can look ahead, think creatively, and make decisions that serve everyone. I'm asking for your vote not just as a candidate, but as a committed community member who has the time and wants to commit or contribute to our collective success. Together, we can ensure that Sun Peaks continues to be an extraordinary place to live, to work, and to visit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. Catherine Campbell will now introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Catherine Campbell, and I'm running for a seat on Municipal Council for the simple reason that I care about our community and I have a strong desire to contribute to the growth and development of Sun Peaks. My husband Mark and I and our 2 children, Marigold and Jude, moved to Sun Peaks just over 5 years ago. Our kids have attended school here since they were in grades 4 and 5, and now in grade 9 and 10, they're active members of our local freestyle club. Both my husband and I volunteer with the Sun Peaks Freestyle Club, myself on the board as a board member, as the governance chair, and my husband as a dedicated volunteer at events. Mark works for the municipality as a seasonal arena attendant, and you may have seen him driving the ice resurfacer. He is an entrepreneur and mountain bike mechanic. I'm currently the executive director of adaptive sports at Sun Peaks, a position I've held for the past 2.5 years. I'm president of our local Rotary Club and sit on the Municipal Accessibility Committee. It is through all these different activities and interactions that I've met a variety of different people and some of you, and worked with some of you, and I've come to love our little mountain village. My professional career spans 30 years and includes leadership positions in both the not-for-profit and business sectors. Not only have I led not-for-profit organizations, but I've also been a board member on a variety of different boards, including as the vice president and then president of Gymnastics BC, one of the largest provincial sport organizations in the province. I am a former business owner operating 7 gymnastics clubs in 7 different municipalities across the Lower Mainland, Vancouver Island, and in Squamish, with 100 staff members, and we provided 12 programs for 12,000 participants per year. The knowledge, skills, and abilities that I have picked up throughout my professional journey and my life journey are transferable to making me an effective counselor. Some of the attributes that I bring with me are honesty and integrity, respect for others, respect for the institution of local government, the ability to lead, listen, and positively influence others while working collaboratively. I'm a lifelong learner, committed to seeking to understand, and I take very seriously any responsibilities that I take on. I have spent a career in service towards others. In Rotary, our motto is service above self, and I believe that motto will serve me well if elected to council. It would be my great honor and privilege to serve the community of Sun Peaks. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Brian Gillespie, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Brandy. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. It's good to see so many familiar faces out there. Brandy did most of it at the beginning, but thank you for putting this on, and thank you to the sponsors. Thank you for everybody in the room and online for being active participants in our community. It's the thing that makes it work. And then thank you also to my fellow candidates. It takes a lot to step up, and you guys should be proud of yourselves. All right. My Sun Peaks journey began, I'm Brian Gillespie, by the way. Hi. My Sun Peaks journey began in 2007. 20-something-year-old Brian showed up to be a liftie here in Sun Peaks. I stayed for the winter. A little known fact is that I got a do not rehire after that season. It didn't seem to stick. I came back the next winter as a retail clerk. Or sorry, it went to rentals, and then the next season I went into retail. That third spring, I decided not to leave and stayed here ever since, aside from the odd vacation. That whole time, I worked for Bottoms. Got its hooks in me early, and they made space for me my entire career so far in Sun Peaks. As I grew into my early 30s, my perspective started to shift. What had once been a playground became a home. My job turned into a career, and I began to see the community in a different light. Sun Peaks has always been on a path of growth, and with growth comes challenges. Over the years, I've been inspired by the dedication of our residents, community groups, and businesses. There's not exactly a single moment that I can pinpoint where my outlook changed. But as I grew with my friends, colleagues, and neighbors, so did our conversations. Long-term housing, real estate, healthcare, daycare, having kids, schooling, starting businesses, sometimes closing them. Inflation, staffing, shortages, global pandemics, restrictions, fires, floods, tourism, and so much more. The conversations we're having today are not new to me, but they are as important as ever. We face challenges together, navigating obstacles, and we've built towards the future. 4 years ago, I took over the operations of Bottoms, and as I always have and will, I sought guidance from people I trust and respect. It's been challenging and fun. When I was offered the opportunity, I became a partner. I took my time with the decision and made the commitment. You guys will have me around for a while. As my perspective shifted, so did the business. We opened the doors to Rotary, provided them space for meetings. We hosted political meet and greets. I'm sure we'll host more in the coming days. We solidified our support for local nonprofits and made sure we remained active in the community. Looking back, I can see now that my heart has been community focused for a long time, even if I didn't realize it. I think that was obvious to a fair few of you who I had discussions along the way with. I'm proud to be here, sitting in front of so many people that are like-minded and invested in their community. We're going to cover some key issues tonight, so I'm not going to dive into them right now. But before I end my little speech, the path forward in Sun Peaks as a mountain resort municipality is growth. Growth that is thoughtful, transparent, and informed by both our past, the experiences and the experience of similar communities. There are critical infrastructure priorities that we simply cannot compromise on if we want to sustain our growth, but beyond that, we need to keep our focus on what makes Sun Peaks more than just a resort, the things that give it heart. The daycare, the health center, and our vision for community school. These aren't just services, they are investments in the people who live, work, and raise families here. They are what bring us together and make us more than just a place to visit. It's a place to call home.
Thank you, Brian. We'll now hear from Alice Muirhead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alice Muirhead, and I have been living in Sun Peaks for 8 years. I moved here from Prince George, where I grew up and went to school. I've worked remotely for that whole time from my home in Sun Peaks, but I'm also a coach for the Sun Peaks Alpine Club. And well before I came to Sun Peaks, I coached ski racing in Prince George. So I made many trips to Sun Peaks to bring children to races here, and I've always loved coming here. I love the mountain, I love the skiing. And it was sort of a dream come true moving here 8 years ago. As someone who works from home, I think it's super important that I am involved with the community that I am living in, that I don't get too buried in my own office and in my own head. So I'm running for council because I'd like to give back to the community that's given me so much joy and happiness, and hopefully I can contribute in a way that serves the needs of the people who live here. Really interested in what people are looking for in Sun Peaks. I try to stay active, engaged in terms of reading the newspaper, which is an amazing thing to have here in Sun Peaks, and talking to people about what makes them happy about living here and what things frustrate them. And I hope that by being part of council, I can bring that community voice forward. It's really an honor, actually, to be sitting up here. I mean, these three candidates are also amazing people. And I think that the current councillors and the soon-to-be mayor are amazing people too. So we're so blessed in this community to have people who care about what's happening. And I hope to be part of that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alice. So now we're going to switch into the official forum questions. And these questions have been taken directly from our reader survey, which was sent out last week. We had over 40 responses, so thank you to everyone who participated and put these topics forward. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. There will be no rebuttals. It's not a debate per se. And we are going to mix up the order a little bit to give everybody a chance to start as well. Does that sound good to you guys? Okay. So for question number 1, many residents and business owners struggle to find or provide affordable housing in Sun Peaks. The Sun Peaks Housing Authority has been in existence for over 6 years, and Sun Peaks is also set to benefit from the Housing Accelerator Fund to help create housing. What is your current understanding of these programs, and how would you use them, or any other efforts to help increase the supply of housing in Sun Peaks? I'll also just make a note to candidates that you will have an opportunity to specifically address the foreign buyers ban later in the forum. So I understand these things intersect. Alice, can we start with you over on that side, please? 2 minutes.
Okay. Housing is an issue in Sun Peaks, as I'm sure many of us are aware. It's difficult to find a place to live, whether you are here for a season, here for a year, or choosing to make your life here. I am aware of the grant that the Sun Peaks municipality has received and the requirements that we have to meet in order to receive the full sum. I know that there are challenges given the current economy, that development is slowed. So without new developments, we will not receive all of that money. I think that will be an interesting challenge to dive into with the other councillors to understand their thinking around it, and whether we choose to turn that money away or choose to return it if we can't meet the conditions of it. I would hate to see us spend it before we know that we're going to have it. I think that incentives like the program that the resort is putting on, where they're providing incentives to homeowners to provide suites in their homes or rooms in their homes, is a really great program, and I'd love to see that expand a bit more. And I think in general, partnerships like that, where it's the municipality and the resort working together to solve housing issues, I think that's a really positive thing.
Wonderful, thank you. Brian, would you like to take it away?
Thank you, well said. The grant money is positive, and it is, it's a little concerning seeing that some of that might slip away based on what we've been able to build out right now. I think there is viable things to bring back with an argument saying, the foreign buyer ban and some of the infrastructure things that we haven't fixed in waterworks right now have held things up. The foreign buyer ban is something that we haven't been able to control, although we've been lobbying for and putting pressure on. But the waterworks would have happened, and we would have found the money to build those out if the foreign buyer ban had been lifted. So I want to think a little outside of the box. The project we have and we will go forward with is really positive, but it's definitely not the catch-all answer to our housing, long-term, short-term, or anything like that in Sun Peaks. We have to all be creative. Right now we have a finite inventory. That doesn't mean that there isn't stuff out there, and that doesn't mean that if we work hard as businesses and individuals, we can't find solutions. I know myself, as a business owner, we year-round rent out accommodation for some of our staffing, whether they're full or not. It's a cost of business. I know other business owners that have bought accommodation with the foresight that they will need staff housing. So these are solutions that forward thinking has brought us to, but the subsidized housing is definitely something I'm looking forward to, and something that we should continue to push forward on, and it needs to be a priority in our community.
Wonderful, thank you. Catherine, would you like to answer the question next, please?
Thank you to Brian and Alice for talking about the Sun Peaks Community Lodge and speaking to the BC Accelerator Fund. I'm really excited about the BC Accelerator Fund, and I think that it is the hard work of the Sun Peaks Housing Authority that has got us to that point where we've received the Accelerator Fund money. And I think that the more we can add a variety of different inventories in housing into our inventory, benefits us all with the new employee accommodations that Sun Peaks Resort built, adding 116 pillows and almost 60 units, contributes to the housing inventory. And so it sounds like from, Deanna, at the last municipal council meeting was saying that it looks like we'll be able to hang on to the money, and hopefully some of these infrastructure things and the foreign buyers ban won't, and we can start to have some housing starts so that we will continue to get the rest of the money. And the other thing that, that is in our official community plan is that we have earmarked slots of land, with this one, the first one being identified with the BC Accelerator Fund, with the middle income housing, first ever rental building that will be built in Sun Peaks. There are 9 parcels of land that have been identified for employee housing, and so it's exciting to have this first one getting developed. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Dave, would you like to close us out on this question?
How to answer, and you're 4th on the list. I won't rehash all of the facts that have been brought out by the 3 other candidates here. The Accelerator Fund and this particular project are big steps forward, but they are not going to solve this problem. It's a bigger problem than that. And we need to balance that across the other housing problems we have in the resort. We've got a lot of different interests and a lot of different desires. And I know this topic wasn't going to bring short-term housing, but this is equally in there as much as the foreign buyers ban. But we have multiple housing stocks available. And if we need to take a data analytics look at the whole housing environment in the resort and really map out where's our stock, where's our demand, and try to find ways to increase the housing stock in the areas where the greatest demand exists. And it's not going to be pretty. I think we all gotta get an anecdotal note of that. But it's hard to say, okay, this project's great and it's going to make a big difference. How big a difference is it going to make? I hope a big difference. But we don't know. And I think that's the part I just want to add to this, is the fact that we've got to take a deeper dive and a deeper look into the numbers and trying to figure out exactly where we need to spend more money, how to use those other parcels of land, how to go after other development projects that will close the gap on the worst of the supply-demand equations for each of the housing needs and housing stocks. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to our second question, also somewhat related to housing. Our current short-term rental policy using temporary use permits in residentially zoned areas has been in place for many years. However, some residents argue that the current arrangement is applied inconsistently or negatively affects property values and even future tourism development. What do you think of our current municipal short-term rental policies, and how would you revisit these? We can start with Catherine, please.
Well, I think short-term rental, the short-term nightly rental issue is not unique to Sun Peaks Mountain Resort. I think that all municipalities and cities across the province are having to face, how to manage short-term nightly rentals. I'm heartened that our current municipal municipal council and staff have decided that they're hiring a consultant to take our community through basically a forensic analysis and to be able to contribute to ensure that we get this right, because short-term nightly rentals, I think in a tourist mountain resort are really integral to our community, and it is a pain point. And again, as I said, not just in our community, but in lots of different communities. And so I think some of the steps that are being taken right now, and I'm looking forward to this spring and summer deep dive to ensure that we create the right policies and get this right. So thank you.
Thank you. Dave, would you like to go next, please?
On the short term, as I alluded to on the affordable housing, I mean, it is a big and important step in that analysis, is to really understand what's available and what the need is. I'd like to make a couple of statements. One, I sat on the select committee for short-term housing or short-term rentals in 2023. So there may be a part of the community that thinks I'm anti short-term rentals because I got slotted into the side that said we want a moratorium on short-term rentals in Lookout Ridge. I am not against short-term rentals in a resort community whatsoever. I actually owned and ran one for about 6 years. But what that committee and the issues that were raised there and will come up again this spring is that there are different types of housing stock with different kinds of zoning attached to them. Despite the fact that we're in a resort community, we have residents that have purchased residentially zoned properties. They legally have the right not to have short-term rentals in their neighborhood. Now, the municipality has the legal right to change that zoning. So the TUP is an interesting and positive strategy in my mind to dealing with that particular zoning issue versus spot zoning, which is permanent. Now, I lost my train of thought there. So, with it, I gotta watch my time too. With this particular policy and implementing it, I think with short-term rentals, we gotta keep two things in mind. One is around enforcement. That's community-wide, that's a separate issue. This issue is about the residentially zoned properties in the resort that are generally single-family homes. Right now, it is up to the owner to decide the community's need. Again, data will tell us if it's actually supply and demand needed to be increased or decreased or balanced off somehow. And that's the
your
approach
time,
I'd like
Dave.
to take. Thanks.
Thank you. Brian, would you like to take it next, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is probably the divisive issue. I think outside of this, we're kind of all on the same path forward, just debating on what steps to take. So yes, to what David said, I think there's a lack of true I'll step back. I hear both sides. I've had these conversations multiple times. And the one thing that keeps on being brought up is Sun Peaks needs short-term rentals. That's the argument on one of the sides. And yes, this is a resort community, and yes, we absolutely do in certain aspects, but what quantifies that need? Are we using the ones that we have zoned for? Are we clustering the temporary use permits in neighborhoods? The 25% allotment on neighborhoods, are they all being used effectively? So we need some numbers. The third-party consultant that's coming in that will give us some of that, hopefully give us some true metrics on what we're looking at, is a really positive step. But I think clear data is going to be positive for everybody, whether you don't want short-term nightly rentals beside you, or you are pro short-term nightly rentals because you're operating one and it's an income stream for you, or you just simply believe that we need more in the resort. I think once we can see the numbers, we can make some well thought out decisions and be transparent to everybody so that we can all plan accordingly and be on the same page. It's not going to be perfect, nothing ever is, but that's what I'm looking forward to, really getting the details.
Thank you, Brian. Alice, would you like to close us out on this question, please?
Thank you. I think part of your original question, Brandy, was about the inconsistent application of some of these policies or decisions. And I think that's absolutely true, that different streets, different homeowners have different experiences of these policies. I would love us to finalize an updated community plan, official community plan, so that it is clear to people what is a residential area, what is an area that allows short-term nightly rentals, what is an area where you'll have to apply for a temporary use permit. I think all of this exists in different places, but I think an official community plan is a guiding document not only for the council to make decisions about these things, but for the community to understand and for potential buyers to understand what they're getting into when they purchase a property in Sun Peaks. I think short-term nightly rentals are an important part of what we can offer tourists. Not everybody wants to stay in a hotel, not everybody wants to stay in a condo, some people want a house, so if we can have a variety of things to offer people, I think that's really important. But I think that, you know, the bylaws that keep people quiet at night and keep them respectful with their garbage and their parking and their snow removal, that's all super important too. I really think that we live in a resort where people want to come and visit, so we need to give them places to stay. So I don't think short-term nightly rentals are going anywhere, but I do think that some increased communication around what buyers can expect would be great.
Awesome, thank you, Alice. Okay, this leads us to our third question. Since the transfer of Sun Peaks Utilities from Sun Peaks Resort LLP to the municipality, there have been several phases of required infrastructure upgrades to both our water and wastewater systems. Most recently, in February, Council approved a 10% increase to water and wastewater charges, following a 5.5% municipal tax increase for municipal operations and capital assets. According to the Director of Finance, the cost of supplying water is significantly higher than the cost of the water being consumed, explaining that this is due to maintaining and upgrading the infrastructure needed to ensure reliable and sustainable water. How do you plan to tackle this ongoing issue? And I would like to start with Brian, please.
Thanks, Brandy. So this is like big ticket item. You know, our facilities need to be upgraded and expanded upon. I feel like when we say tackle, it alludes to a solution that is better than the one that we've mapped out. And I think education of why we're here with our current wastewater treatment facility and the upgrades that need to happen. So the past is really important to pay attention to. How we funded some of it originally via debt, and the fact that we did not necessarily raise those rates in the past years to keep up with the maintenance and the infrastructure upgrades that needed to happen is the reason why we are in the situation we are. I don't personally have an answer to you in regards to how we're going to get out of it versus, or as opposed, or outside of raising the appropriate funds via taxes. It is not the prettiest picture to paint, but it is realistic, and it's something that our community needs to buy into. Outside of that, we do need to be active when we look at our upgrades and thinking outside of the box. But yeah, it's a reality that we're in, and we all need to come together and move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Alice, would you like to take this second, please?
Well, water and wastewater, the least sexy things that council has to deal with, but I think probably the most common thing that council has to deal with. I think this is, again, where partnerships are so important. I think a partnership with Sun Peaks Resort is critically important because they use a lot of water and their guests produce a lot of wastewater. And I think partnerships with the provincial and federal government are also important. I think as BC's fastest growing municipality, we can put our hands up and say, we need some help here to keep pace with this growth. Again, an official community plan would be super helpful because that would help us lobby those different levels of government for increased support. And I think, just as Brian was saying, a lot of the groundwork has already been laid. I don't have a super miracle solution that I'm gonna come in with because I think so many people have already taken great steps towards solving this problem, and I'd love to be part of making it happen even more.
Thank you very much. Dave, would you like to answer this question, please?
Well, we all know what rolls downhill. This all comes down to planning, and I think really what in my world it's about as close to strategic planning as we're going to get as a municipality, and that is looking at the growth that we want to have as a community and how to manage that growth. We know the projects Sun Peaks Resort has on the table for the future, and we need to look carefully at all of them at the same time and sort of priority rank the ones which are most likely and see what has to come down, what's coming at us. The development charges are nice to help put that development in place and connect it to the infrastructure, but if the infrastructure isn't at a level that can accommodate that and the other development that's going on around it, that means the municipality is looking at enhancements to the existing infrastructure at a cost. Let's not keep in mind that it's not just the residents, the tax-paying residents and property owners that are utilizing this infrastructure. It's also our guests and our visitors. And I think there are creative ways to find some new revenue sources to augment the grants that we can continue to go after to help at least the guests pay a little bit to help maintaining and improving that infrastructure that they are also taking great benefit in using. And I'm going to keep it short this time.
Sounds good to me. All right, Catherine, would you like to take this question? Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate what everyone has said so far. I'm not sure how much more I can add. I really liked what Alice was talking about with really developing our partnerships with the resort, with provincial government. Right now we are self-funded. We have a self-funded water supply, really. And you know, it's exciting to know that we're going to have this water pipeline. The work will be starting this summer with the $4.5 million grant that we've received. And so if we can leverage grants like that and some of the things that Dave is talking about as well, creatively maybe passing some costs on to our guests who come and visit us and utilize the water. So yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to our final question in this portion. A current federal policy has limited or removed the ability for foreign buyers to purchase property in Sun Peaks, which has had a significant impact on real estate development and the general economy in the resort. Many people want to see this ban amended to exclude Sun Peaks, similar to other resort communities in British Columbia. What are your plans for advocating for Sun Peaks regarding this current federal policy? So Dave, we would like to start with you this round, please.
I think this is our number one lobbying need. I think the resort, along with the municipality and other interests, have done a great job to date in lobbying to get this change made. It's not canceling, you know, the whole legislation. It's just getting us excluded from it because of the catchment that we have with Kamloops. And I think everything else is almost on hold until we get this thing removed. Development can't happen, revenues can't happen, and everything that we want to do. This is not, you know, it's our number one. And I think the new council is going to be challenged without Mayor Rain here. You know, we all have other things we occupy our time with, and we're going to have to share the burden. And every councillor, along with Mayor O'Toole, are going to have to really step up and work with the resort and others to continue that lobbying effort and see if we can get whichever government ends up in power in Ottawa. At least that's only 3 weeks after this election, our election. Well, see if we can get that turned around. But I don't think really it is our number one. We really have to get after that and get that removed.
Thank you, Dave. Alice, would you like to go second, please?
I have a different view. I do not think this is our number one concern. I do think it is a concern because foreign buyers bring money to Sun Peaks, which is super important for businesses and for development. I think there's a lot of other things that locals would prioritize above lobbying against the foreign buyers ban. So I would tend to agree with them that there's other things like water and wastewater and hopefully a school that we would prioritize over the foreign buyer ban. I also think foreign buyers create a community of empty houses. And I really like having neighbors on Burfield Drive. I think it's a really nice place to live because people are there all the time. And I completely understand that foreign buyers bring money to the community and they spend big in the restaurants and in the businesses. So I'm not totally opposed to foreign buyers, but I think we should invest in the community that we have and become more attractive to BC residents. We could draw people from the Lower Mainland quite easily. This is a great place to come skiing every weekend, rather than going to Whistler, which can be a little wet and rainy and quite busy and expensive. I think if we tap into the local market, we wouldn't need to worry so much about foreign buyers.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like to go next, please?
I do think that the foreign buyers ban has greatly affected the resort in terms of real estate, sales, and development. And so, so I do think it is a top of agenda item for sure. And I'm hopeful, I mean, who knows, maybe with this, this election coming up is kind of interesting timing. Maybe it'll present an opportunity for us. But I would be in favor of building on the work that the municipal councillors have been doing, lobbying the government, and when Peter Millibar and Todd Stone were our MPs, our MLAs, I mean, with this riding thing that's changed around, it's Peter Millibar, but they've been so receptive to meet with us and try to come up with solutions so that we can get this changed around. But at this point, it is 2 years out. And so I think we should continue lobbying, but also try to make other things happen locally as well.
Thank you, Catherine. Brian, last word to you on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely believe that the foreign buyer ban being lifted is a priority. I think where the effort that we put in needs to be well calculated. I think we need to come together and create some really stable messaging for it. And I think that we need to activate the community as well. It doesn't just have to come from council. I think anybody can write a letter. But you know, unfortunately, I love the idea of the Lower Mainland helping our economy and buying houses, and Sun Peaks was showcased incredibly well during the pandemic. We had a record amount of rubber tire traffic that came through from all over the province and Alberta, and unfortunately, even with that exposure, our housing market is pretty stagnant right now. So I think the foreign buyers do absolutely bring something to the table. We don't need to strictly focus on them, but I think it's absolutely something that deserves our attention. And you know, when we can start lobbying, which isn't right now, we actively should. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the official forum questions, and now we're going to turn it over to you, the audience. So this portion will be approximately 30 minutes. Nicole is going to come up and grab this microphone from me, and then she'll take it around to folks in the audience who have questions. When she comes up to you, make sure to keep your question succinct, and also try and keep it directed at 1 to 2 counselors only, and try and keep the rotation in mind. If people haven't been asked when, you can throw one their way. The counselors will each have 2 minutes to respond. And yeah, any questions? We're good? Okay. Who would like to ask our first question?
Test. First of all, thanks to the four of you for stepping up to serve the community. It's very much appreciated. I think I want to direct this to Dave. Some of you have spoken about the official community plan, which I believe is a regulatory requirement. And it seems to fill a number of aspects of strategic planning, land use, finance, utilities, and so on. Do you feel that that instrument and the processes behind it meet the long-term planning and risk management needs of the community? And if not, what areas would you enhance and what processes would you go through to fulfill that?
Interesting question. I'm a big believer on having guidance documents like the OCP, so I think that's very, very useful to a council to help guide the municipality. Having it updated regularly is also helpful because things come up that unforeseen things we don't know, the unknown unknowns that might need to get updated over time. Having clarity over short-term rentals, I think, was one of the other candidates' suggestions, and I think making that into an OCP, that sounds like a great idea, once we sort that out. I think the thing is we need to actually get it, like the current draft version, actually get it approved and in place. Is it meeting all the needs? It's a good question. I don't have a great answer for what it's missing. I haven't found any gaps in my reviews of it or places where I've had to refer to it, but I'm not saying that there's any gaps there. But I think right now is the time to identify them. So if you've got some, let's chat and see what we can do, because we're still in draft form. We can definitely we should be looking at those kinds of improvements if we can.
Thank you. Okay. Would any other candidate like to address the OCP question, or are we good? Moving on. We're good? Okay, moving on to this gentleman here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harold. Many of you probably understand that between 80% plus of our economy here is based on tourism and visitation. And I would suggest that close to 100% of people come here first as tourists or to support this service economy. My question is about in what ways do we ensure this continues while encouraging a means of diversification? And how do we balance our living community needs? Obviously, we have, Al told me 6 months ago or so that we had maybe 1,800 people that call this home permanently. It may be bigger now, I'm not sure, but maybe you know. But the question also is, how do we balance our living community needs while building excellence in our visitor economy?
Would you like to direct it to a
And I'd
specific
like
candidate?
Brian and Catherine to answer that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the question, Harold. I think the way to balance it, I think that a community that has, that is desirable to live in, that has amenities and things like a school and a health center and clubs and people living somewhere, contributes to the vibrancy of the place that is exciting to come and visit. So I don't think that they're necessarily, they're not that separate. I mean, we know that Tourism Sun Peaks is working really hard to diversify our economy so that we've got events and things happening in our shoulder season. We had that soft launch of the arena in the summer with concerts, ticketed concerts, to entice people to come and visit. And I think if you live here, those types of things are exciting to have. I mean, we have Art Zone and you know, with the skate park being built, it'll be great for our community, but it's also great for our guests. So I think the more, just the more vibrant we can make our community for us, it's an attractive place for visitors to come as well.
Yeah, I think that was really well said. I think when we focus our energy on the heart of the community, like community spaces that we can gather, you know, and Art Zone can have times that aren't getting pushed out for monetary purposes, or, you know, we focus on a community-driven school and other community-based projects. I think what that does is, and why it's so important, is it retains like-minded people in our community that are willing to invest in the community in multiple ways, whether they're clubs or businesses, people that are passionate about being in Sun Peaks. Those things, the reason why they're so, the reason why the heart is so valuable is because people will then, you know, choose to live here, go through the struggles of living here, buy into the community, and make it a better place. So that will directly affect tourism in a positive way. And I think that's why the heart projects are so important to us.
Thank you very much. Do we have another question? Gabby in the back there. Yeah. The people at home won't be able to hear you if you don't speak into the mic, so.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Good to see all familiar faces up there. We've talked a lot about people coming into our community. We've talked about locals collectively, about approximately 1,800 of those being full-time year-round. What we haven't really talked about is the youth of our community. There's about approximately 12 weeks right now out of the school year that they're not actually in school. And if we're going to bring our community and our heart back to Sun Peaks, what does grassroots potential programming look like for our youth? And I'll ask Dave and Brian to speak on this, please, and thanks.
Thanks, Gabby. So yeah, I think there's some like key foundational things that we've already done as a municipality. I think there's things in progress like the skate park and things that are in the planning stages like the community school that we have to work hard on, sports fields, stuff like that. And then there's some great things that we've already accomplished like the health center. So I think the heart is in Sun Peaks, And I think there is, with this community that I'm looking out on right now, I think it will progress. It does need to be a priority for us. I think I've had this conversation multiple times over the last couple weeks. There's nothing that, you know, makes this feel like home, like those kids that backpacks are half the size of their bodies coming down the hill and meeting with their parents. It's frankly, it's cool. And, you know, in those, in the summertime, you know, we've got the pool back up and running. That's a huge win in my opinion. And we still have this beautiful outdoor landscape that, you know, the kids can go hiking and, yeah. So we're not all the way there, but I think we need to be proud of where we've come. And I think we need to, you know, keep our foot on the gas and keep building it for the kids, for sure.
Great question. As many of you know, I actually have one child, that me, my daughter and her husband, and my 3 grandkids that live in the community. 2 are in the schools, and I can still remember the days when I would take my youngest granddaughter up to her first days at school and taking the pommel lift up there. I shared that picture with everybody I could, and they were all so jealous. And I think it's just been a wonderful place for the kids to grow up. I'm really, really happy that my daughter and her husband decided to buy a place and raise a family here. Their ability to buy a place is another story. It was quite the effort, but that's not the question. I think we have a lot of natural resources available to us that really we can leverage in a lot of programming. But I think I said the number 1 lobbying priority was the foreign buyer ban. The number 2 lobbying priority is a community school. But not just the school. It's all of the infrastructure around it so that we can put in the programming for the kids for different kinds of sports and activities and make those things available. And I think that whole project requires, you know, an in-depth community review, just like a lot of involvement as to what do we need and what are the right mix of facilities so that we can put that kind of programming in place for the kids. Okay.
Thank you to you both. Do we have another question in the audience? I think Suzanne's back there.
Okay, Brian, I'm not picking on you. I'm going to direct it to you because you brought it up. Pardon me. You said that during COVID, like Sun Peaks was really showcased. We had like so many people coming, et cetera, but there wasn't a whole lot of movement in real estate, that kind of thing, because like there's the foreign buyers, et cetera. But do you think, and anybody else up there can answer as well, but do you not think that perhaps offering a development of actual affordable places would be a better driver than trying to sell, you know, 3 $1 million houses instead of, you know, $2,300, $100,000 mini houses or something? I think that kind of thing would definitely be a bonus to our community and enhance it. Thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And the real estate market was actually pretty good through COVID. But what I was trying to say was with all that exposure, when the interest rates rose, and you know, you can look around right now, and there's a lot of inventory on the market right now, especially over $1 million. So I wasn't being negative. I hope I didn't come over on that point in regards to the build for, you know, are we calling it subsidized housing, or are we calling it affordable housing? Thank you. So I'm very pro that. I just don't think that, I think we need to focus on it, get it through, but I'm cautious that it is the fix-all. I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of things we need to do to realize what the other aspects of inventory are in Sun Peaks, I absolutely think it's a priority. I think the foreign buyer ban being lifted will only help with us building that housing as well. Yeah. Did I answer your question fully? Of course, thank you.
Would any other candidate like to answer this question as well? All right. Did I see it? Okay, all right. We have another question over here.
Hello, there we go. Hi, I'm a permanent resident on Fairways, have been for 7 years, and before that I lived in the other resort community here in British Columbia. Resorts are very great on publishing their master plans every 5 years. Ours has been published, we know what's coming. I'd like to ask each and every one of you how we're going to get ahead of the curve. We are short on water, we're short on sewer, and we're short on power. Everything else is nice to have, but if we don't have the resort keeping operating, we do not have a community. I don't work for the community, I'm retired, so don't think I work for the corp. But I know, as God made little green apples, they publish a master plan, and that's what their investors and their owners expect to have done in 5 years. So how are we going to get ahead of the curve? Forget foreign buyers. How are we going to pay for water, sewer, and hydro?
Alice, we can start with you down there if you like.
Thank you for that question. I completely agree that those are the foundational pieces that enable us all to live here, work here, play here. And that's kind of the boring day-to-day work of council, is making sure we have enough water and we're dealing with the wastewater, we're building roads, we're maintaining the roads, and we're doing it in partnership with Sun Peaks Resort. So we're looking at their master plan with them to ensure we're taking steps together to ensure that those foundational infrastructure pieces are in place to enable that master plan. We're also working with local developers to ensure that contracts go to them where possible so that we're employing local people to make these things happen. I keep saying this, but it's all about partnerships. It's all about talking to each other within this community and ensuring that nobody's in the dark, nobody's moving ahead with something and not telling the other players what's happening.
Go down line to Brian, please.
We're still on. Nice. It's a great question. So growth for just growth's sake is a pretty dangerous thing, and we do need to be calculated in how we move forward. A master plan is fantastic. The work that was put into it and us matching the OCP with it is an important step when we finalize that. But it won't just progress. Like, there's been, the engineers have put a covenant on builds that will not be lifted until we make some major changes to our water treatment facility and fresh water. So these things are at a stalemate until the infrastructure does catch up. The question about how we're going to get there in regards to budgeting or budgets, grants are fantastic, but we can't just continuously depend on the next grant. It's amazing that we have a grant writer right now, and I think it's something that we actively need to go towards. But we need to be, fiscally responsible in our decision making, and we also need to think outside of the box when it comes to a different revenue stream or an added revenue stream in one that already exists. Those talks are happening. I'm not going to get too deep into them, but I think we're all like-minded in the fact that we do need to properly plan for the future, and it's great to see how aware you are of that.
Thank you. Well, just like these two have said, and especially Alice, driving home the need for partnership, I completely agree. And one of the things I think that is exciting is that we have a director of infrastructure at the municipality now. And in terms of going forward, one of the empty seats at the municipality is a director of planning. We actually don't have a planner, and I know that we can utilize some consultants through the TNRD that can help. But I do think that that position at the municipality is a key one if we can plan for that and have that in our budget in the next few years.
That's a huge topic. Because it actually, everything we've been talking about tonight all filters into that one, that, you know, that encapsulating theme and encapsulating question. Without the removal of the foreign buyers ban, it will be difficult to sell properties that we currently have that will enable the resort, the capital, to be able to do any more investment. That investment is required in order to meet their goals on the master plan. The combination of the OCP and the master plan are what the municipality needs to work with. But again, we've got some revenue sources like the development charges that help put, connect those developments into our infrastructure. But we need to make sure our infrastructure is ready. Until we have an understanding of the timing, it's very hard to put some of the budgets and other processes in place. But this is why, again, I look at it from a strategic planning perspective. We've got the master plan, we've got the OCP, we've got an idea of what the resort wants to do next. We know what that we need to figure out what the impact is on all of our infrastructure and get ready to put shovels in ground and get the work done and find those alternate revenue sources, not just grants, to make that happen. I'm a big proponent of putting in place some kind of a resort fee for nightly occupants. So people, visitors who come in, and they can help pay for the infrastructure that they're actually using. And I think they wouldn't have a problem with that, because we're not going to be able to facilitate all of that on our taxpayer base in the idea of in the span of time that the resort will want to move along their master plan. So I think it all fits together, and it all comes down to having a holistic view of where we're going and on what time frame and what kind of money we're going to need so that we can make those decisions. You know, I'm a big data guy, so, you know, I'm going to want to see, let's see the data and let's do the planning. And then everybody will have a good picture of what it's going to look like, so that when we see another 10% increase in water, it's not, oh no, it's not another 10% increase. It's just the next one of, I believe, 4 or 5 that were scheduled to happen. You know, and that's the way we need to look at it, is what is going to need to happen to make sure that all this infrastructure keeps up.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Do we have more questions in the audience? Up here at the front, please, Nicole. Sorry, it's not quite on. If you, I think you maybe just aren't holding it close enough to your mouth there.
Oh, maybe
There you
not
go.
close enough. I keep hearing about planning and water, and that makes me think about fire. We're now in a world where we're seeing some pretty catastrophic things happening. I had a brother who was a firefighter, he's retired, visit last summer, and he said, I can't believe you guys don't have another road out of here. And he says, as a firefighter, that's huge. That is not acceptable. So my question is to all of you, what are your thoughts about how do we stay safe in the summer anymore?
Who would like to start? Do you want to start? Thank you, Catherine.
Well, that's a good question, and I think that it's a question that's on all of our minds. I do know that in the OCP, it does talk about, and the master plan as well, that the road to Chase, the back road to Chase, would be developed. I don't know what the time frame on that is, but I think that it is another top of agenda type of item that needs to be that needs to be planned for. So I don't know, you know, what kind of planning has gone prior to this, but it's definitely a concern of all of ours.
Go for it, Alice. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So the question of one road out of here, what comes to mind is the dirt road, the back road to Chase, and the possible development of that road. And it's my understanding that that would require partnership and collaboration with First Nations in the area. This is something that has been part of my whole professional career, is working with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis organizations and government. I think it's vital that we are respectful of their needs and what they'd like to see done with the road, in the interest of all of our safety. I'm also so grateful that we are a community with a fire department that can respond to things right in the municipality, and for the fire smart activities that have already gone on, that the council is already thinking about this as a concern. But I would emphasize that partnerships with the First Nations would be vital to creating access to that road and developing that road.
I can dive in here if you want. Yeah, the back road to Chase, it would be a game changer. I haven't met one person that is against it. You're absolutely correct with the partnership. I think our current council and late mayor had done and will continue to do amazing relationship building. I think the foundation forward does need to be a financial partnership in some way with our neighboring bands that is long-term, that keeps, you know, so that our vision aligns. I think that's key. In the short term, I believe the municipality is hiring a position that is dedicated to this. What is that position called? Fire Smart Coordinator. So yeah, steps are being taken in the short term, and that's really positive to see, because everybody in this room knows that we're having more smoky summers than we aren't currently, and yeah, it's a real risk that we need to be proactive and take very seriously.
Not a lot extra to add, but I go back to the fact that we got to find the money. It's not going to be cheap, and it'll be a priority against everything else. We've got a lot of top drawer priorities that we want as a community, we want done. But we don't have a taxpayer base with the appetite to pay what it takes. So that's really what it boils down to, is what's most important. Do we want a community school? Do we want a road to Chase? Do we want fresh water? Do we want a road to Chase? It's not, I don't want to make it an either or, but it's a prioritization exercise so that we can line things up and start executing and getting them done. But that's a big ticket. And a lot of work with a lot of partners to get done.
All right, thank you to all of our counselors on that question. I think we have time for one more. Just in the back, Maria, please.
Hey, my name is Maria, and I've lived here in Sun Peaks 22 years. Yep, so love it. The question I have really for council is, I think it's clearer for everybody, you know, we're looking for that balance because we are a tourist resort, and we want to be a livable community. And some of the other things we've been talking about, the road to Chase, the community school as well. some of these, when we talk about the funding, what would you, as a councillor too, because these are provincial responsibilities, these are large sums of money that come directly from the province. And as you know, even the school district can ask for those funds, but it doesn't come from them. And the same for the road. These are huge ticket items. So what, as councillors, would you be doing then, working together to lobby the province for some of these huge ticket items that are really, really important to the growth of Sun Peaks? Thank you.
Dave, would you like to go first?
Well, again, when you're talking about multi-government levels of government responsibility, in particular the two mentioned having provincial responsibility, it then becomes a lobbying effort to try to get the money. Now, the school aspect, yes, the school district's involved, but we want something more than a school. And that's where the community, local community comes in, where there's funds that need to be acquired. Again, there are various sources you need to look at, and there's different kind of plans for things that we will want in that site that are not necessarily on the school district's plane of view. So it is a lot of lobbying, and it might be kind of just lining up these lobbying efforts to get as much money as we can out of the different levels of government for wherever those responsibilities lie. But I think in all cases, there's a community impact that we as a group need to decide, okay, what do we want to see, and what are we willing to do to get it? And I think that's what it boils down to. But I mean, what can we do? It's the lobbying effort and focusing on the most important things first and moving everything else along as we can.
Okay, it's on already. Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot to add to that because it is a lobbying effort. However, I guess what I would like to say is that, and Maria, you're one of them, this community is so powerful and has done so much that, I mean, this community has done some of the work that the provincial government needed to do, with starting a school and developing the health center. So I think that we're just we're strong, we're small but mighty. And so I think we are good lobbyers, and we just need to continue on the work that those who have come before us and just continue that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to be realistic about how we can use our municipal budget and what we can use it for. I think when it comes to the community school, that is a huge priority for us. We all need to sort of take our hats off to the Sun Peaks Education Society and the work that they've done. They've raised a phenomenal amount of money so far. I strongly believe that as a community, we are going to raise a lot more. And what that does is it gives more of us voice in the build. So the more money we can come to the table with as a community, plus some, really strong messaging from council and consistent pressure, that's where we get results when it comes to the community school. So it needs to be a priority. We need to fund as a community for it to get the desired result. When it comes to the back road to Chase, the partnerships with our neighboring bands is one of the key things that the municipality can do to solidify that going forward. It's going to take a lot of work. It's a huge amount of money, provincial money, maybe federal. I'm not too sure sitting in front of you right now, but yeah, the relationship building and then creating that, again, I go back to sort of a financial relationship. If we can paint a picture, create a plan that is going to financially benefit everybody involved, I think we have a better chance of moving it forward.
This is a great question because I think it really highlights that there are so many different players in each of these issues that we've discussed tonight. And I think in order to access the funds, to get the school, if that's what we want, to get the road, if that's what we want, we have to be a good partner, and we have to be ready to work with other organizations and levels of government. And we have to be engaged, we have to be educated. Dave said a couple of times we need the data. So we need good information to present to our partners so that they can make decisions at their tables. A lot of my professional experience is in healthcare administration, and that is a tangly world of jurisdictional levels where everybody's fighting for their piece of the pie. But really, success happens when people work together. I think one of the positive things that's already happened is that we don't need a site for the school, that site doesn't need to be purchased. So that moves us onto a different list with the school district capital plan. I think if we've already laid the groundwork with Niscontleth and Adams Lake and Little Shuswap First Nations, then we're just that much closer to working together on a road or in an emergency situation when we have to evacuate on the road that exists. So I think being a good partner and coming to the table with an open mind and a willingness to compromise and collaborate, I think that's what's really important.
Wonderful. Thank you to everyone for your questions, and thank you to all of our candidates for your thoughtful responses. Now I would like to call up our future mayor and Councillor Rob O'Toole to say a few words to close out the evening.
First, I just want to say, glad I didn't have to run against these four. And I want to thank them as well for running. It's been one thing I've been saying for the last couple of weeks since the nominations came forward was that as a community, I think we're in great hands here with the four quality candidates that have stepped up to run. And irregardless of who wins on April 5th, we're in a good place. A lot of good stuff discussed here. Just a few things I just want to touch on. First of all, it's just family. Sorry. Because I wouldn't be able to be up here without mine. And they're sitting back there. So, unlike Mr. Carney, I didn't have to put my stuff in a blind trust, but I think my wife and daughter would prefer if I did. I'm still going to be in there getting in the way. So yeah, people keep asking me am I ready? And I thought, you know what, honestly, probably not, right? I'm definitely nervous. I'm excited. It's been a bit of a funny feeling being in limbo for the last kind of few weeks, going to meetings and sitting in the gallery and not being able to vote and not being able to debate. And still reading agendas, but not being involved in a lot of the things. But trust that I've been working behind the scenes and meeting with local community groups, Maria and the leadership from the Education Society, and focusing on the school. I mean, it's near and dear to us as a family. I was on that board for a couple of years, and my wife was on it as well. Both our kids went to that school. And it's key, and I think, we talked about a number of various issues, and I just want to quickly touch on a few things, and I want to go back and just pay some respects to the person that I'm hopefully going to have an opportunity to stand on his shoulders and do some things. And Mayor Rain had some big visions for this community, many of which we've been able to realize over the last decade plus since incorporation. But still some other ones to work on and some things we're working on in this particular term. There was some discussion around tourists paying for tourist services, and that's something that he's been championing as of late with the provincial government and working on those kinds of things, because it is a big part of what we do, and we see massive spikes in municipal services being used when we go from 17 or 1,800 full-time residents to all of a sudden 7 or 8,000 people here on a 3-day stint or a 2-week stint over the holidays, and those kinds of things. Building lasting relations with First Nations and our local, the lake bands, the Squilax, Little Shuswap, Nisconlith and Adams Lake. And fortunately, going back to my last term, I started to work with the mayor and connect with those bands and build relationships. And I'm really looking forward to that. And the CAO has already warned me that she's got a series of meetings already blocked off for after the 15th meeting to start meeting with them. And they're excited to get to work and to continue on the work that they've been doing with Al. And that's not just it's not an MOU. It's not a memorandum of understanding. It's not simply just a handshake and supporting them and us supporting them and them supporting us. We're talking about groundbreaking stuff where they actually see growth in Sun Peaks as a positive because they're a part of that success. And so that kind of stuff just gets me excited. And we've had some great meetings here over the last few months with leaderships like Cook P. Way from Nisconlith, who, if you remember, were here for the mayor's life celebration, and Elder Louis spoke and did the blessing, and Councillor Honor-Noose was here, who's had a long, long relationship with the mayor. Gabby touched on something about what are the kids doing when they're not busy in school. It's a great question, and when our kids were a little bit younger, we had that problem where it was like, our son wanted to hang out in the village, and I'm like, it's not the mall, right? And something we researched some years back, Maria and myself, Tanya, we were kind of working on stuff for the school, and I spent some time in Roslyn. They've got a thing there, and it's something we should maybe be working on with families. It's called YAN. It's short for the Youth Action Network, and they developed a community group there that's built a facility there next to the skate park. It has a board of directors, which has got a couple of adult advisors, but it's actually the youth that are the board of the directors. And they do cooking classes there, and they take food safe there, and they bring in chefs, and they do all sorts of cool stuff. And they have a games room, and the kids can go there after school and play games. And they're kind of allowed to be in leadership roles and play adult almost, right? It's a really cool concept, and it's been funded by the Columbia Basin Trust. So that's something. The Fire Smart Coordinator, I know we're talking a lot about the road. Not going to happen overnight. It's going to have a lot to do with our partnership with the nations out at the lakes. The master plan absolutely feeds the OCP. The OCP comes out of the master plan, was why we waited until after the last master plan update to start working on the OCP draft. And now we're in a situation where we're consulting local nations on that updated master plan. We've hired a professional grant writer, which has been a huge asset. We realize that there's just too much at stake to not have somebody who knows what they're doing those kinds of things. Sewage expansion on the radar, massive piece. We've got a $4.5 million pipeline project that starts this summer. Brick and mortar school. For those of you who don't know, since the last provincial election, the MLA boundaries changed. Ward Stamer is now our MLA for this area, and he is the former mayor of Barrier, and I had the good fortune to work with him when I was on the TNRD board for a while. So I have a good relationship with him, and I've been talking with Maria about that, and we'll be working with him. He's been advocating for us already for that school. What else have I got? Council and staff will be taking part in, once the new council's elected, the CAO has plans to work on some strategic planning. We'll be going into kind of a multi-day kind of type session scenario on some, long-term strategy planning. Along with that, as we try to get a better understanding of how we can play a positive role working with local nations. We don't tend to spend a lot of money on travel at the Sun Peaks municipality, so we're going to be rerouting some of the money that funds that, and we're going to be taking a multi-day training session with a company called Indigenous Training, Inc., which is owned by Chief Bob Joseph, and it'll be an opportunity for us to work with local nations and learn how to build better relationships with them. So that's some of the things we've got coming online. Other than that, big things we got to work on, short-term nightly rental policy. At the end of the day, it's just striking a balance, right? We are a tourism-based community. None of us, the 1,700 full-time residents that are here, there'd be no community to live in if it wasn't for the tourism. So it's a piece of the puzzle. It just needs to be done in a way where it respects those full-time community members that live here and that want to enjoy it. But those services don't exist without the tourism. So we just need to find that balance, right? And we've got a review coming up, which new council will get an opportunity to be a part of that this coming spring. Other than that, I'm super excited to get back on the 15th and get to work. And then thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you very much, Rob. So that is the end of our time here this evening. Thank you so much to all the candidates for putting your names forward, participating in this process, and participating in this forum this evening. Thank you to everyone else who participated, who's here and participated in different ways. If you have questions on voting logistics, such as required documentation, advance or regular voting, that information is on sunpeaksnews.com and the municipal website. You can also get in touch with Nikki Johnson at the municipal office, who is our Chief Elections Officer. Thank you and good night.